Shalom. Now, this video is going to be about the ongoing drama. And I don't think I made a video about this subject yet, so I might as well hit on it now since it's kind of taken a very interesting turn. The NFAC. That's what this video is about. This video is about the NFAC and their grand leader, or whatever his designation is, Grand Master J. So I'm going to talk about this video about the NFAC, Grandmaster J, what I think of the NFAC, what I think of Grandmaster J, and what I think of his recent arrest on federal firearm charges. And I will just basically summarize my whole thoughts about this. First and foremost, we have to be careful of anything that seeks to compartmentalize in this country. Anything that seeks to create categories for various ideologies, various people of various walks of life, races and what have you. You have to be careful, because one thing I've come to notice about these people, these things that rule the world, is that they like to put everything in its own separate little bag. They like to compartmentalize everything, because when they compartmentalize things, then they can apply their labels to that. They can apply their stereotypes, their everything. They can make or break whatever that is that they have compartmentalized. So we have to be careful of groups, organizations, things that seek to be the face of a certain mindset, an ideology, a way of life. We have to be careful of that. And when it comes to the NFAC, my gut instinct is that what we have seen with that is an attempt to compartmentalize the very concept of Black American / Israelite gun owners. It is an attempt to basically shuffle us all up underneath one particular category. You know, where it would create this stigma where if it was allowed to take the full course of its intended route, you would have a scenario where any Israelite, any AKA Black American that was pro-gun, that was pro-Second Amendment, that was pro AR-15 assault rifles, the average layman person would assume that Israelite / African American is an NFAC member, or is at the very least a fan of NFAC. They would just associate you with NFAC because of the compartmentalization that has been done via the whole shenanigans involving NFAC. So that's what I just, it's a gut feeling. I can't really point to anything specific. It's like trying to point out a picture while your face is literally touching it, while your nose is touching it. You cannot describe the entire image because you're like too close to it. you know. So I can point out little details, but there's no way anyone would be able to really come to the same conclusion that I have, you know. It is up to into interpretation, but knowing the way these people work, how their minds work, in fact, would be an ideal vehicle to compartmentalize the concept of Black American / Israelite American gun owners. To basically say, if you are a Black American / Israelite American that owns an AR-15, you more than likely are part of NFAC, either directly or spiritually. There's no other possibility, you know. And you got to understand, this attempt to compartmentalize those of us who wish to take our lives into our own hands, who wish to take authority and responsibility for our own lives and arm ourselves underneath the liberties clearly stated that are for us. You know, people will debate whether or not these rights and laws are for us, but on paper, it says that we're for us, that they're for us, period. That's what it says. U.S. citizens, these rights apply to you. Now, whether or not anyone wants to honor that, well, that's their fault. They are the ones breaking the law. They are the ones breaking the rules. They are the ones showing that they can't play by the rules. They are the ones showing that they are a little better than animals. Because the rules clearly state this is what is supposed to be. And they're the ones showing that they cannot play by those rules. So we need to stop bending our knees to the fact that we live amongst people who I would say that they're worse than animals. Because if you can't, it's one thing not being able to play by the rules. It's another thing not being able to play by the rules that you and your ancestors made. That's worse than animal. But regardless, they've already done this before. If we recall, back during the gangster rap and gangbanging era, where it literally was a stereotype that even Black people gave into, that if you were a Black person and you owned a Glock and all that stuff with the extended magazine and stuff, if you own firearms that you could legally buy, people would automatically assume that you must be either a gangbanger or a rapper. You know, unless you were a cop, it was the assumption amongst Black people, even Israelites, that another Israelite that owned a weapon like that must be a gangbanger or a rapper. So this compartmentalization, this isolating of ideologies, this is nothing new. They've used this against us before, many times. And that's kind of what I see with what I believe with NFAC. That's the true purpose. So if I'm saying that about NFAC, then obviously you can draw the conclusion that my theory on Grandmaster Jay is that of a traitor, that of a agent, that of a compromised individual. He is a controlled opposition, if you will. You know, I mean, let's talk about the damn name, first of all, of the group that he created, NFAC, the Not Fucking Around Coalition. I mean, come on. Can you get any more childish than that? Can you get any more inflammatory than that? Can you get any more ridiculous than that? Can you get any more, oh, I'm trying to show that I am a threat and I want you to be afraid of me because I ain't fucking around anymore than that? That is not the name you come up with. If you're talking about this is a group about black empowerment and defending the lives of black people, you don't come up with shit like that. That's not what you come up with. That holds no kind of true, heartfelt, passionate meaning. That is a total, that's just something you say to get shit riled up. That's what that is. That's all that is. That is a totally inflammatory statement name for a militia. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, come on. So, like, that comes out. That's the name he chooses. Okay. And then you go to the guy's so-called supposed credentials, his supposed expertise when it comes to all things firearms. Let me tell you something. I've been into guns, firearms myself for a good minute. Grew up around them. Matter of fact, my very first gun purchase that I purchased with my own money was for a $1,600 Desert Eagle, 50 caliber Desert Eagle. That was my very first gun. I didn't start off small. I started off almost as big as you can get. So basically, I kind of worked backwards. I started off with the hard, and then I worked my way back to the easy. So when it comes to guns, I know a little something about them. And I have to tell you from the videos I've seen of Grandmaster Jay, from his supposed advice about firearms, his supposed assessment about firearm failures, and his performance in firing a firearm does not represent that of a person who knows what they're talking about. It does not. There is a infamous video that he made, though I believe he did delete this video off of his YouTube channel or his Facebook or whatever. As you know, anytime you put something on the internet, it's out there and it can never be taken back. So this video is infamous. It is all over the internet. It is kind of a running joke in the gun community. And it is the video that he put out following the negligent discharge that happened at an NFAC rally where 2 people were injured. It was where he proceeded to explain how the negligent discharge happened. It was the video about the bolt goes forward and the weapon has fired. This is a shining example of someone who knows not a damn thing about what they're talking about, particularly when it comes to the AR platform. The bolt slams forward even when you chamber around. The bolt slams forward after a round is discharged. The bolt goes flying back. It hits into the buffer. The buffer spring in the buffer 2 compresses, and then it shoots the bolt back forward. The bolt scoops up another round out of the magazine, and forces it all in the chamber. Now, if what Grandmaster Jay demonstrated in that video was a common occurrence, AR-15s would quite literally, if what he demonstrated in that video, what he claimed would happen when he demonstrated what he did, if that really did happen, AR-15s would require you to pull the trigger just one time. And after you would pull the trigger that one time, the gun will continue to fire until the magazine was empty. That's what would happen in the reality in which what Grandmaster Jay demonstrated in that video were to be true. But as we know, that's not the case. It's not just a one trigger pull and the gun continues to fire uncontrollably until empty. It doesn't work like that. So that's something that you cannot get wrong if you understand anything about AR-15s. And this man supposedly has a military background, which makes that a whole lot less likely after a video like that. Come on now. Other things that I've seen from him, to just drive home this guy cannot be what he claims to be. Examples that I'm giving here. It was a video where this was a more recent video where he was, I believe, conducting some kind of qualification course for prospective NFAC members. And towards the end of the video, towards the end of the course, he decided to have a little photo op where he and several NFAC members basically formed a line and proceeded to fire their weapons until empty at I don't know what. Now, this is basically called a mag dump, where you just shoot until your gun is dry. A lot of people do it, probably don't do it too much anymore considering the price of bullets now, but it's common, fun, just doing something. And that's not the issue with this. The issue is the way in which he fired the weapon. Again, when you are an amateur, you cannot hide it. You can hide it when you're talking. You cannot hide it when you're walking. You cannot hide it when you're actually doing that which you claim you know what you're doing, what you know about, but you don't. You truly don't. And in this instance, Grandmaster Jay, when he was firing his rifle, to anybody who has some kind of firearm expertise or experience, particularly with the AR-15 platform, they could easily look at it, the way this man was firing that rifle, and tell that this must be maybe his second time actually ever shooting a rifle. I can't really describe the look, but to people who have seen people who have never fired a rifle before finally shoot one, it looked like that. The face is far away from the chamber as possible. Instead of being up on the gun, they're kind of leaning backwards. That whole little thing. So you got those two things. You got the NFAC itself, the name, and how it seems like it's truly, the name is really just a attempt to create this idea of angry black people. You got a bunch of armed black people, Israelite people walking around talking about they part of the not fucking around coalition. I mean, just imagine. I mean, just imagine the optics that creates. Does that look like just some safe group to be around, or does that kind of give off the air that these people are angry and they're looking to maybe start some shit? You know. And this is just the history of us in this country, and how our enemies have always wanted to portray us, how they've always have portrayed us. They've always portrayed us as the hotheads. They've always portrayed us as the angry people. They've always portrayed us, and all that is just an extension of what they used to call us, savages. So it went from calling us savages. They went from calling us savages to portraying us as hotheads, to portraying us as angry people, people who are mad all the time. That's just a more polite way of them basically saying that we're savages. That's all it is. That's all it is. So, I mean, they do not want that. They do not want the optic of black gun owners being calm, cool, collective, and articulate, very level-minded. No anger, no rage. They don't want that. Because the whole point of portraying us, those of us who are gun owners, those of us who are into firearms, the whole point of portraying us as angry is to create this, like I said, compartmentalization where you have different segments of our people, where they'll say these black people are the mean, angry, mad ones. But these black people over here who are college educated, they're the sane, down to earth, calm, level-headed black people. See, that's the whole purpose of compartmentalization. They break up people from the whole, those who they don't like, those who represent a mindset that they do not desire us, that whole, having. And then they give that group a bad stigma. And then they use that bad stigma to coerce the rest of the whole to not be like that. That's how they play this game. So when right when NFAC came on the scene, right when I heard their name, I didn't even have to hear the rhetoric and the inflammatory statements from their supposed leader. I didn't have to hear none of that. All I had to do was know what their name was. And I already knew what this was about. I already knew. So you have a group, a militia, created by a man who is quite literally a poser. In video evidence, I don't, whether you support NFAC or not, video evidence doesn't lie. That man's a poser. And in the damnedest thing about it is, like, why be a poser? He wouldn't have to have been a poser to still form a black militia. He didn't have to be a poser. He didn't have to sit up here and pretend that he knew this and that about this. Because that wasn't the purpose of it. Was never to be a firearms expert. Supposedly, the purpose was always to be black empowerment and to help with defending Israelites still in the habit of calling us black, defending Israelites from the threats around us. You don't have to be a firearms expert. You don't have to be supposed former military to be the champion of a cause like that. So it's like, why even go that route? Why was that even, you know, even part of the persona he wanted to put out there? You know, and that all goes back to, well, maybe the reason for that was to create this militant, angry black man, this militant, angry Israelite, persona, for the purpose of compartmentalizing, and placing negative stigmas, negative stereotypes on Israelite gun owners, particularly those of us who are pro Second Amendment, pro AR-15, AKs. We're all that. We're pro all that. The purpose of that militant, ex-military, angry Israelite man that Grandmaster Jay put out there was for the purpose of making all of us who are 100% 2A, 100% Second Amendment, look like we are angry, mad, militant Israelites looking for a fight. And this was done in the past. Again, and it was for the purpose of bringing about gun control. A lot of people know about the history of the Black Panthers in the Mulford Act. If you're not aware of the Mulford Act and the Black Panther, well, basically what happened was when the Black Panthers started patrolling their neighborhoods, their black neighborhoods, with their rifles out, much like NFAC has done with these armed protests. When the Black Panthers started doing that, that started making all the white people scared. And when the white people got scared, what do white people typically do when they get scared? They go run into the government for a solution. And what solution did the government give them? Well, the government produced the Mulford Act, which basically prevented open carry of firearms. This basically put an end to the Black Panthers patrolling their neighborhoods, with their guns out. It put an end to anybody doing it. And that was the whole purpose. The whole purpose was to bring about these gun control laws and legislations. So here we are on the cusp of a Biden presidency, a man that has made no mistake to let people know that he is a very anti-2A individual. Perhaps all this stuff that's been going on, these protests, these armed protests, NFAC, various other militias and stuff like that, perhaps all that will influence a lot of white people to support new, stricter gun laws. I don't know. Maybe. That could be another reason for it. But I do think the main reason for it is to have created this stigma amongst our people to make even us think that the only Israelites who have these type of weapons are the ones that are part of the NFAC. Back in the 1960s, the stigma was the only Israelites that had those rifles that they had back then were part of the Black Panthers. When the 90s came around, the thinking was the only Israelites that have guns like that are drug dealers, gangbangers, or rappers. Now, the agenda has been to create a new stigma that the only Israelites that have those type of weapons are NFAC members. See, compartmentalization. So yeah, that's my theory on, in fact, Grandmaster Jay. You know, more psychological operations, more attempts by the people who run things to try to shave off ideologies and personality types and mindsets that they don't like. They don't like the idea of us taking control of our own self-defense. They don't like the idea of us being equally, having equal firepower to their enforcers. You know, their enforcers, the cops. They don't like that. They want us to be a step beneath their all the people that they use to maintain their system. You know, the cops are part of their system, is how they maintain their pecking orders, how they maintain their status quo. They don't like the idea of us having equal abilities to them, you know. So, and they especially don't like us having that ability, you know. They've always been more tolerant of white people in general having those abilities, you know. I guess because they've always felt that white people were easier to manipulate. And they have been. Yes, throughout the history of this nation, you have seen white people are far more easy to manipulate than we are. They are. Because quite literally, when you are trying to manipulate white people, all you really have to do is play to their pride, their ego. You know, if you make them feel like they're more than what they truly are, you know, they'll play along with you. They'll do your dirty work. And these wicked, evil creatures that have been controlling this world know that very well. They know how easy it is to manipulate white people. But when it comes to us, they know that we require more than pleasantries. We require more than nice talk. We want tangible things. We've always have, you know, sweet talk telling us how great we are and everything. We are more practical people. We understand that that ain't going to put food on our tables. That's not going to allow us to live the life that we want to live. It will simply allow us to live comfortably in a delusion of grandeur, in a fantasy world. So they know when it comes to us, they have to be a lot more hands-on. They have to get their hands a lot more dirty. And that's exactly what they've done. Their hands are covered with our blood. And they are over encumbered with debt as a result of all that blood. There's no escaping it. And I don't even know if forgiveness is possible. So that's my take on the NFAC. That's my take on, yeah, about the arrest. Now that's the big question mark. If Grandmaster Jay truly is an agent, why would they arrest him? Why would they come up with these charges of him supposedly pointing his gun at federal agents and stuff? And according to what I understand that went down, some cops were up on a rooftop nearby, and Grandmaster Jay was using the weapon light on his rifle to, I guess, identify them up there. Which, again, displays his complete ignorance of firearms. When it comes to the weapon light on your gun, be it a rifle or a pistol or shotgun, the weapon light is not meant to be a flashlight for just simple flashlight purposes. just looking around in the dark, that's not necessarily what you use the weapon light for. You use the weapon light for identifying your target in the dark, because, the way it's on the gun, anything you point that weapon light at, you are literally pointing your gun at it. So it's a different rule of engagement. If you want to use a flashlight to look around, that's why you would have a typical handheld flashlight. That's what you use that for. You don't use your weapon light for just scanning your surroundings in general. That's typically used to aim at a target that you are looking to put a hole in. So if that is indeed what Grandmaster Jay did, then that is a no-no. That is a no-no. Now, that being said, why did they wait so long? I think this was back in September. So why did they wait 3 months before they finally decide to bring charges up on them? I could see maybe a month. I could see them waiting a month before they brought the charges on them. We should have been seeing this back in October. But why 3 months? Why are we in December and they're now bringing this out? So, that's a question mark, But I really don't. Everything else that I've seen about NFAC and its leader and the similarities between it and the Black Panthers, when they were doing their whole little gun thing, and how that just ultimately led to more gun control. And the history of gun control in this country is truly a racist history that is against us. We were the first targets of gun control in America. We were. So considering all that, despite the strangeness about how long they waited to bring charges against Jay, everything else I've seen, that it just doesn't it doesn't trump everything else I've seen from NFAC and Jay. I'm sorry. I myself, as an Israelite American that believes in our ability to defend ourselves with every weapon we can get our hand on, I will not be compartmentalized. I will not be categorized. I will not be placed underneath this particular category or that particular category. No, you don't need to be that. There should be no extra designation for those of us who believe, who know that we should take care of ourselves and take responsibility for our own personal safety and the safety of our people and those around us and those that we care about. There should be no special designation for those of us who know that is part of what it means to live. You can't go giving all your responsibilities away to a government. Those responsibilities are what life is. You take responsibility for your life. You take responsibility for your ability to defend yourself, feed yourself, clothe yourself. Government seeks to take all these responsibilities from you, which quite literally means government seeks to take all the reasons for living away from you. If you want to live in a place where you don't have any responsibilities whatsoever, we already have those. They're called prisons. There, you don't have to provide nothing for yourself. Your food is provided for you. Your clothing is provided for you. Your safety and security is provided for you. That's what life looks like when you have no responsibilities. When you delegate all your responsibilities to another party, you quite literally are putting yourself in a prison. And that is what government seeks to do to those that are underneath it. And that is what this new world order seeks to do to the entire planet, with us leading the way. You know, being the first victims of it. They started on us a long time ago. They're still working on us. But by the graces of the Most High Yah, we'll be the people who they do not pull into their global prison, because we've been in prison. Our 4 centuries in this nation has been like a prison. So we're not due to go into another prison. No, we are the one people who are due to be released. Shalom.